A Joplin church joins the push for COVID vaccinations. Plus, the latest as Jasper County authorities investigate a report of a shooting in the Harps parking lot. And a Miami family finally has a place to call home a year after a fire destroyed their house. We'll hear how the community helped make their dream come true.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Jasper County authorities are searching for 2 suspects in connection with a shooting in Airport Drive. This is KOAM News at 10. This is a still developing story. The Sheriff's Department says witnesses reported hearing gunshots in the parking lot of Harps grocery store. That was around 1:35 this afternoon. Investigators say they found evidence in the parking lot of a possible shooting, including evidence of, quote, possible injuries. Authorities say they've located the victims, a 22-year-old Webb City woman and a 33-year-old man from California. They're both in the hospital, the last report, with what police were calling non-life-threatening gunshot wounds. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office released a description of 2 possible suspects. They say the driver was a black man driving a dark red Kia SUV. His passenger, another suspect, is a black man with 4 braids in his hair and neck tattoos. Doug, Hetty, some thunderstorms out there tonight.
Yeah, showers, thunderstorms really increasing over the past couple hours, and this is going to continue as we go through the overnight hours tonight. Most of these have really been from Stockton, Lake Lamar, Pittsburgh, over toward Parsons, Fredonia, and points north. If you live south of that, you haven't seen any rain so far tonight, but eventually you will later on tonight. Most of these have been strong. We haven't had much in the way of severe weather, but they are still packing a punch. This little cluster here from Fort Scott, Girard, and then stretching back toward Parsons, we're getting some gusty winds, 40 to 50 miles per hour, and some very heavy amounts of rain, very electric storms as well. So this is kind of on the doorstep of Pittsburgh. These are very slow movers, so still probably 30 minutes away. But we're going to continue to see these expand as we go through the overnight hours tonight, continuing still mainly in the northern half of the region, and then they'll start to take a dive late tonight into southwestern parts of Missouri. So most of us should get rain as we go through the overnight hours. Of course, we're going to look beyond this here in just a bit.
See you then. The U.S. Surgeon General is calling on tech companies to help stop pandemic misinformation. And Los Angeles County's mask mandate is coming back amid concern over rising COVID-19 infections in California. Natalie Brand has more.
As COVID-19 cases rise nationwide, Los Angeles County is reimposing its indoor mask mandate regardless of vaccination status.
It is in my community, and I do choose to protect others.
If a business wants to choose to ask us to wear a mask, then I agree with it and respect the individual establishment.
After months of declining numbers indicating the nation was emerging from the pandemic, new cases in the U.S. have doubled in recent weeks. In New York, tonight's game between the Yankees and Boston Red Sox was postponed after positive COVID test results within the Yankees organization.
I will turn it over.
Over at the White House, the U.S. Surgeon General issued an advisory on the dangers of health misinformation. The Biden administration is urging big tech and social media companies to do more to stop the spread, saying falsehoods about COVID-19 put more lives at risk.
It's painful for me to know that nearly every death we are seeing now from COVID-19 could have been prevented. I say that as someone who has lost 10 family members to COVID-19 and who wishes each and every day that they had had the opportunity to get vaccinated.
The administration wants tech companies to take faster action against harmful posts, especially concerning vaccines.
They've allowed people who intentionally spread misinformation, what we call disinformation, to have extraordinary reach.
Daily vaccinations have dropped by more than half in the last month alone, and the CDC projects an increase in COVID-related hospitalizations nationwide. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
The U.S. is again reporting more than 1,000 new COVID infections per hour. An uptick in Missouri COVID-19 cases has led to a bigger push to get vaccinated. The Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services labels several southwest Missouri areas as COVID-19 hotspots, including Joplin and Jasper and Newton counties. The Jordan Valley Community Health Center today held a vaccination clinic in Joplin to help reach those still hesitant about getting their shot.
A couple of the variants have shown up, and especially with this Delta variant that is going around right now, you're beginning to see more of a demand, from people. And our job is to get our mobile vaccine unit out to make it as convenient as possible.
They say by doing outreach with their mobile vaccine unit, they hope to see more of Missouri's population vaccinated. The Joplin Health Department is bringing vaccines to the people. In this case, a large gathering of folks in downtown Joplin taking in Thursday. The health department hosted a walk-in vaccine clinic at the Arts and Entertainment Festival.
I think it's great. I think it's groundbreaking that we're just letting people have access any way that we can, and we're bringing it to the public, and we want it to be accessible to everyone.
The health department offered the Moderna vaccine. Southeast Kansas is also seeing rising cases of COVID-19, including cases of the Delta variant. Statewide, Kansas recently saw its highest 7-day average of new cases since March, around 350 cases per day. We spoke with the Wilson County health officer who also practices family medicine to hear about what she's seeing.
It is unfortunately starting to feel again like last year. So we hope that people recognize that we're better prepared. We know how to care for people. We know what we need to do. So we're hopeful that people will see what's happening now and already take those precautions to not continue to spread COVID.
Dr. McKinney says the cases involving vaccinated people are less severe than with unvaccinated people. In May of 2020, fire destroyed the Miami, Oklahoma home of the Carson family. Unable to rebuild, they lived with family until their more distant family, came to lend a hand. It's been a long road for the Carson family.
Keep them squeezed tight.
Come here.
More than a year since a fire destroyed their Miami home.
Turn this way.
A big moment spurred by a loving community has them feeling like they're back on the right track.
Look! It's a new house!
After the fire, the Carsons didn't know what was next, but that didn't last long. It took just one Facebook post.
And within 5 minutes, the kids had clothes.
Before friends, family, and even some strangers rallied around them, ready to help.
And then the next day, people were just driving by when we were cleaning up the house and stuff. People were just driving by, handing him money. And
Casey's family also stepped up in a big way.
Especially my aunt and my uncle. They kind of let us move in. They didn't really charge us anything.
But the Carsons, a family of 5, wanted a place to call their own.
it was very stressful. It was hard, and they slept on the floor in the back.
Yeah. The floor was uncomfortable.
They used donations and a year of savings to get to this point.
This is the one we looked at!
Yes, this is our new home, guys!
With new beds.
These are dentures.
And new plans.
I want to change a lost rainbow with unicorns on them.
And a new future.
Having our own space is definitely nice. It's good to finally go home.
Carson's new home is also in Miami. A portion of highway in Newton County, Missouri now bears the name of a heroic firefighter. State Highway 43 between State Highway U and State Highway C will be known as the firefighter Tyler H. Casey Memorial Highway. Casey's family was with the Missouri Governor Parson when he signed the designation into law. Casey is credited with saving lives when a tornado moved through that area in May of 2008. He was a volunteer firefighter with the Seneca Area Fire Protection District, assigned to a post near the intersection of Highway 43 and Iris Road to help with storm spotting. He left his vehicle to alert a family parked on the side of the road. The family managed to escape, but Casey was struck by the tornado, died 2 days later. Casey is credited with saving the lives of at least 3 people. Still ahead, a new Missouri law will provide greater oversight of unlicensed residential care facilities for children. And President Biden hosts a European leader in the White House for the first time. Missouri Governor Mike Parson has signed legislation for greater oversight of unlicensed residential care facilities for children. That measure comes after allegations of long-running abuse at some Missouri boarding schools. In March, Attorney General Eric Schmidt filed more than 100 criminal charges against the owners of the former Circle of Hope Girls Ranch in Cedar County. They pleaded not guilty. They were awaiting trial. The legislation would require facilities like that to notify the state of their existence and undergo background checks for their personnel. Missouri students, as soon as next year, could have access to scholarships for private school through a new tax credit program. Governor Parsons signed that new program into law this week. Under the voucher-style program, private donors would give money to nonprofits that in turn would dole out scholarships to low-income families. Donors would get state tax credits equal to the amount they donate. Critics say such programs funnel money away from public schools by drawing students out of those districts, leading to a drop in attendance and a subsequent drop in funding. Today marks the first time President Biden has hosted the leader of a European nation at the White House. He and German Chancellor Angela Merkel signed commitments stating their two countries would continue to work together on a range of topics, which include respect for human rights and tackling the threat of climate change. Skylar Henry is at the White House with more.
The president welcomed German Chancellor Angela Merkel for what's likely to be her final White House visit before she steps down in the coming weeks.
Both our nations understand the imperative of proving that democracies can deliver the needs of our people.
Mr. Biden is the fourth U.S. president the German leader has worked with during her 16 years in office, and their meeting was seen as less contentious than her run-ins with the previous president.
I consider her a personal friend.
The two countries are now looking to collaborate on a range of issues in the years ahead, from the pandemic and economic recovery to global security and climate change.
We all share the same values. We all share the same determination to tackle the challenges of our times.
Emerging challenges from China and Russia were also on the agenda, as well as U.S. concerns over the Russia Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which connects to Germany.
Russia must not be allowed to use energy as a weapon to coerce or threaten its neighbors.
During their joint news conference, the president addressed key domestic issues, including the two-track infrastructure plans working their way through Congress.
I'm supremely confident that everything's going to work out perfectly.
Earlier, Vice President Kamala Harris hosted the German leader for a working breakfast. The White House said they discussed climate change, emerging technology, and the root causes of migration. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
The president also addressed the situation brewing in the Caribbean during today's joint news conference. On Haiti, he said sending U.S. troops is, quote, not on the agenda. President Biden also called communism a universally failed system as it relates to the protests in Cuba, and added his administration is looking into whether it can reinstate internet access there. Later, day 2 of the premier baseball junior national tournament. Webb City taking on the Arlington A's. We'll have highlights in sports.
Plus, heavy amounts of rain rolling in for us tonight. Some very strong showers and thunderstorms. We're going to look at that coming up. Showers, thunderstorms, heavy amounts of rain, mainly in the northern half of the region over the past several hours, but everybody will get into the action a little bit later on tonight. That is why we are under a flash flood watch tonight into tomorrow morning, mainly due to the amounts of rain that we have had over the past month or so. So the ground is still somewhat saturated, and then you throw on top of it some very heavy amounts of rain, you get some flash flooding issues, and that's what we're going to see as we go through the overnight hours. But most of these storms have really been from Stockton, Nevada, Lamar, Pittsburgh, Fort Scott, over towards Chenouda, and then Yates Center, Fredonia, and Neodesha. Most of the metro hasn't seen anything, and you probably won't for the next several hours, and then things will start to pick up. So Miami, Joplin, Neosho, Carthage, all dry, but you can see right on the doorstep of Pittsburgh a very intense thunderstorm. It is a strong storm. It's producing some winds 50 upwards to 60, right below severe limits. But you can see how electric these are. So this is right on top of Parsons, and then it stretches over toward McCune. And then if we go up into Crawford County, so here's Pittsburgh. So it is right on the west side of Pittsburgh, let's say Kansas Crossing, and then stretching up 69 toward Fort Scott. So that's a pretty intense cell, and it's moving so slowly, it's dropping 1 to 2 inches as it works through. And then right behind it, you can see all these thunderstorms continuing to develop out across Wilson County and then out towards Chautauqua and Sedan County, all the way over toward Wichita. So it's that whole area is kind of training, continuing to develop. It's going to continue to produce storms and then eventually drop through during the overnight hours. So let's go through time. Scattered thunderstorms, mainly north of Interstate 44, continue for the next 3, 4, 5 hours. And then eventually this batch will just take a dive off toward the south and to the east. That's when Oklahoma will get into it, southwestern Missouri, south of I-44, and eventually Arkansas. But this isn't until tomorrow morning, so late tonight into tomorrow morning. Everybody will probably be pretty wet when you wake up in the morning, and then by mid to late morning, we'll start to dry out. We'll get all this rain out of here. It's going to be kind of cool, actually. We're going to be sitting into the 70s for a good chunk of the day. And then once the sun pops out late in the day, then we'll pop back into the 80s for highs. Looks good, though, right now. Here's Indigo Sky Casino and Resort, of course, just outside of Seneca, Missouri. Also dry in Joplin, but you can really see the lightning starting to pick up as we are looking off toward the north and to the west. And all these storms really caused from just kind of a stationary front right across the region. It's going to hang out near us, at least, for the next few days, so that's why we're going to have chances for showers and thunderstorms. Once we get rid of this big batch, late tonight into the morning hours tomorrow, the afternoon, we're still going to have some isolated thunderstorms, but it's not going to be a big wall of rain like we've been seeing. 70 to start, 80 by noon, high temp. Once we get some sun, we'll pop out into the 80s for highs. But rainfall amounts, this is why we have the flash flooding threat. A lot of areas are going to pick up 1, 2, maybe 3 inches of rain with all these thunderstorms rolling through tonight. And you can see everybody should get some rain tonight into tomorrow morning. 85 tomorrow, 90 or near 90 on Saturday, 88 on Sunday, but scattered thunderstorm chances sticking around through the weekend. Not a washout by any means if you have outdoor plans, just kind of hit and miss.
And I got my lawn mowed this morning because I was paying attention to what you said last night. Thanks, Doug. Hey, kids showed off their pedal tractor pull skills today at the Jasper County Youth Fair. There were plenty of other events too, of course, like steer and sheep shows and a watermelon feed, but sometimes you just got to put the pedal to the metal.
So you have to, so they put weights on it and you try to get as far as you can go, and whoever goes the most, they win.
The youth fair continues tomorrow with more livestock judging, a tug-of-war contest, and a barbecue dinner. Coming up in sports, the Outlaws are 0-7 against the Griffins, the final matchup of the regular season tonight. And still ahead, highlights from Webb City's debut in the Premier Baseball Junior National Tournament.
It's day 2 of the Premier Baseball Junior National Tournament, and Webb City hits the field for their first game. Today, Webb City hosts the Arlington A's Red Team. Tragan Parker gets a base hit out to right. William Hayes scores from second, and Webb City takes an early 1-0 lead. In the fourth, Parker triples to deep right, and Webb City brings in another run. Same inning, McQuaid Eilenstein finds the grass in right. That's an RBI single. Cy Darnell comes home. A 4-run inning puts Webb City up 7-1. And Parker having a day at the plate. This one carries all the way to the back fence, a 2-run double. And that's the ball game. Webb City rolls by Arlington A's 9-1. There's less than 2 weeks left of the Outlaws' regular season, and Joplin has lost their last 3 in a row, landing them at the bottom of the South Division standings. Today, they host the Nevada Griffins. It's the last matchup between the two teams in the regular season, and Joplin is 0-7 against Nevada. Off to a nice start tonight here, though. Ethan Ellis, a 2-run single. Brett Weimers and Caleb Fearstake score, and the Outlaws jump out ahead in the first. Gavin Heltem's in command on the mound tonight. 4 strikeouts through 2 innings. Nevada now with runners on first and second. Ellis makes a nice catch against the back fence to save the Outlaws' lead. Still 2-0, but not for long. In the third, 2 outs, bases loaded. Jeb Jenkins puts it deep in left center. Base clearing double. Outlaws up 5-0 now. And Joplin finishes the job, shutting out Nevada 8-0. The last major of the year begins today. The Open Championship is being held in Kent, England at the Royal St. George's Golf Club. Louis Oosthuizen is leading after the first round. He shot 6 under for a 64. Americans Jordan Spieth and Brian Harman are tied for second. We'll be back with more news after this.
Take time now to honor a local veteran of the U.S. Army. Iola, Kansas native Matthew Todd served in Baghdad with the 1st Armored Division. Sergeant First Class Matthew Todd, a 4-state hero. You can learn about lots of other heroes, hundreds of them from all across this area. You can also submit a hero of your own anytime. We're always looking for more to recognize. Just go to our website, click on the link. It's KOAMnewsnow.com. Microsoft is giving the decades-old virtual assistant Clippy a second life as an emoji. Clippy debuted in Windows 97 as a small paperclip to help Microsoft Office users. Got the boot 10 years later in Office 2007. After a 14-year hiatus, it resurfaced earlier this year for a single day as an animated sticker in Microsoft Teams. Well, now ahead of Saturday's World Emoji Day, Microsoft says it's going to replace its standard paperclip emoji with an image of Clippy. Some clip art for you there.
I don't even remember it.
I don't either.
So.
did either of you know there was such a thing as a World Emoji Day?
I think they have a day for everything
Pretty
now.
much
I think so.
Yeah.
You're right. Check your calendar. Every day is something. Tomorrow is going to be a rainy day.
Yeah, and we got thunderstorms for us tonight. Most of these are going to be strong, but this storm has kicked up enough to get winds near 60 miles per hour. So this is plowing right through Pittsburgh right now. So we do have a severe thunderstorm warning, northern Jasper, southern parts of Barton.
Final sports note.
A much needed win for the Outlaws, and they got the job done tonight.
Yeah, first win and 8 tries against the Griffins.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us. Don't forget the morning show, and let's make it a great tomorrow.
So on service.